Hello, and welcome to our on-demand leadership workshop. My name is Olivia Brown. I am the Assistant Director of the Center for Leadership.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tierza Watts, and I'm the director of the Center for Leadership.
Awesome. So today in this video, we're going to be talking about active listening as a leadership skill. You may notice in the bottom left-hand corner of this video that it says SOLD, which is Student Organization Leader Development. That is our program for student organization leaders to help develop their leadership skills. So if you're a student organization leader, you are in the right place. Keep watching and hopefully you'll learn a little bit more about active listening as it relates to your student organizations. If you're not a student organization leader, that is totally fine. This video is still for any and all students looking to learn more, so keep watching as well. Before we dive into our topic, again, we're joining you all from the Center for Leadership. So we wanted to talk a little bit about our mission and what we do. So we want all Elon students to graduate with a greater leadership self-efficacy. And leadership self-efficacy is someone's confidence in their ability to do leadership. So we want all Elon students to be able to say, yes, I'm a leader, and yes, I can do leadership effectively. We also want students to graduate with the desire and ability to work collaboratively within diverse communities of people. Because when you graduate and go out into the world, you're going to be working together and needing to communicate and reach goals with people who are different than you. We want students to be preparing for that at Elon. And then lastly, we want students to be able to have the confidence and ability to create positive change. So we want students to use their leadership to make this world a better place. And we want also students to have those skills and the confidence to do that. So that's a little bit about what we do and why we do leadership workshops. The Center for Leadership also likes to help students prepare for their careers. So this is the NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers Career Readiness Competencies. So this is an organization that is comprised of universities and institutions, a lot of professional development centers, as well as employers. And those employers are interviewed and they talk about what competencies they think graduating college students need to enter the workforce. So these are the competencies that they have identified that they think are important for graduating college students to have. So within the Center for Leadership, we want students to graduate with these competencies. You might notice that leadership is actually one of the competencies as well. So we find ourselves important, not just for leadership development, but also for career readiness as well. And some of these topics you might see connected to active listening, which is what we're talking about today. Lastly, just wanted to run through a few things on agenda and goals. So what are you going to take away from this video? What are we going to be talking about today? First and foremost, we're going to define active listening, talk about some key components of that. We want to give you all some tangible strategies to do effective active listening. Then we're also going to talk about specifically incorporating active listening into your organization and how you might take action on active listening. And our goals for you all are to learn more about the definition, set your own personal goals. So hopefully you maybe got paper, pen, or something to take notes with you so you can start setting goals for your own active listening. And then hopefully you can go out and apply this to your student organization. Awesome. So before we dive in, we wanted to do a little pre-reflection. So again, maybe you've got a piece of paper with you, maybe this is something that you reflect on, but we want you all to pause the video and just take a few minutes to think about a time that you felt truly seen and heard in a group. This can be in any context, maybe a group that you've worked on, maybe it's your student organization, a time that you felt seen and heard. And then what did that person or what did those people do to make you feel like they were listening to you? So go ahead, pause the video, and then when you come back, Tirza, I would love to ask you this question. So if you could think about a time where you felt seen and heard, what was the context and what did those people do to make you feel like they were listening to you?
Okay, so in answer of that question, I'm assuming you've paused the video and written your own reflection. One of the leadership positions I had in college was being a resident assistant. I had a floor of 46 women that I was responsible for, and all of my residents were in a residential college program. It meant that they were taking two classes together. They had a humanities class, which was a third activity type class. So 3 things together, and they lived together. And they were in the program with the male floor that lived below us. I was very invested in that leadership position, but I also had a bit of imposter syndrome. I felt like my freshman and sophomore year, I had learned some leadership skills in clubs that I was involved in. But when I got into that RA position, I felt a lot of pressure about, oh, I have to know everything for all these first year students. When I felt truly seen and heard was in my one-on-one meetings with my campus supervisor, my hall director. His name was Jerry. And Jerry was really good about asking me about what's going well, where are you struggling, affirming that I didn't have to know everything. And it took me for a while to trust that, because again, I wanted to be perfect right out the gate. But part of leadership is learning as you go. And sometimes you don't do it right the first time or the third time. But as long as you're making that effort to keep going. And so Jerry was really good about when we met, it was in the living room. We were focused on each other. There was no TV on. We didn't have cell phones back then. I'm old. But just like he was focused on me, and it was a really good conversation. And I always walked away with a couple strategies. So not only was he demonstrating listening, he was also then engaging with me, and telling me he heard what I said and gave me some suggestions.
Awesome. Sounds like a great experience. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. All right. So what is the actual definition of active listening? So active listening is when you not only hear what somebody says, so that's using your ears to hear what they're saying, but also attune to their thoughts and their feelings. So part of that's using your intuition. It's using your eyes to observe maybe nonverbals, hear tone of voice, etc. And so when you do this, it turns a conversation into an active and non-competitive two-way interaction. So you're not there to one-up them with facts or information, but you're there to see, observe, and acknowledge what you heard, and you're focused on them, and they know that. All right, so let's talk about some facts about active listening. It's the opposite of passive listening. Passive listening, sometimes you're distracted, you're kind of listening, but you might mentally like drift away or tune out because there's a distraction. You might really care about that person, but it's just not the right time for you to pay attention, and you haven't shared that. And so you're just kind of passively listening, but you're not really present. Um, it looks, sounds, and feels obvious. So when I talked about Jerry, like there was no distractions, we're in a conversation. Um, it's appropriate most of the time to make eye contact. You should never force somebody to do that though. But like it felt obvious. He was looking at me. He wasn't looking at like, his notebook or, at the TV or something else. So you really understand that that person is present. It is a skill that takes practice and focus. And one of the things I've learned as a leader is if I realize, oh, I'm not focused and this person really needs me to be focused, sometimes it's okay to say, hey, I need to take a break. I'll be back in just a minute. And then I want to focus in on you. So I give them that message. But again, it took me practice to even learn how to say that when I realized I was distracted. So the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Active listening is absolutely an important part of being a good and effective leader. When people feel truly heard, they're more invested in you as a leader. They're more invested in the group or the community within the group. And so this is something we want you to practice and learn how to do. And then lastly, let's be honest, and I've already mentioned that we're distracted a couple times. Active listening can be difficult if you're too busy or you're distracted with the environment. So sometimes somebody has said, hey, I really need to talk to you about something. And I can tell from their tone of voice or their energy that they need to talk to me privately. And so sitting in the lobby of my residence hall might not be the right place, or in the lounge at the Mosley Center, or, wherever I'm at out in the hallway of a busy classroom building. So sometimes I have to recognize and move to a different space or place to say, hey, I really want to hear what you have to say, but I don't think the coffee shop's the right place. Let's go out in the hallway. You seem like you really need my attention. So realizing what you need to do. Okay, so let's talk about some tips and some facts and some suggestions. So Olivia and I are going to both run through these. First one is I want you to think about nonverbal communication. I took a class in college on nonverbal communication. It was fascinating. One of the things I remember, and I don't have the exact statistic, but nonverbal communication is like 70 to 80% of your communication. So people are reading body language, facial expressions, all kinds of different things. So you want to make sure that you're giving as much attention as possible with your nonverbal. So, put away your phone, turn off the TV, turn off the radio. If you're distracted, your nonverbals are going to leak that out to that person. Again, 70 to 80% of what you're doing is going to come across. And so they're going to know that. When we think about verbal communication, we want to ask good questions. We want to use phrases that show that we're actually listening, like, hey, a minute ago you mentioned this, this, and this. Could we go back to that? I'd like to know more about your thoughts on that, or could you unpack that for me? So using those kind of phrases that show that you're paying attention. And also figuring out, how do I paraphrase? How do I say, oh, so you, and this is the thought in your head, you don't say this out loud. But let's say they just told you a big long paragraph about some scenario. You want to rephrase in one sentence what the main point was. So using your verbal communication skills to go, oh, so you're really frustrated with your roommate, or you're really frustrated with this member who always comes late. Even though they told you the whole scenario, right? And so using things like that, paraphrasing, reflecting, asking follow-up questions are all important skills.
So I'll talk about the next two strategies. So number three, which I think Tierza touched on already, about not having distractions and making sure that you're really focused on the speaker and letting them talk. Sometimes it's really easy to say, oh, I relate to this, or I know exactly how to solve your problem, and just kind of jump in, maybe interrupt them, or as soon as they finish talking, you're ready to talk about what you were thinking about. I think it's really important when you're actively listening and someone is sharing with you to just focus on the speaker and let them talk as much as they need to. So instead of jumping in and interrupting them, just making sure that you're sitting there and giving them that time and space to speak. As tempting as it may be, I'm somebody that sometimes finds myself wanting to interrupt if I get excited about what we're talking about and I'm like, oh wait, I want to jump in with my own story. Active listening is really about intentionally just giving them the full spotlight, and resisting that urge to jump in. Also staying on topic. Sometimes something might pop into your mind and you're like, oh, I need to talk about something else, and you change the subject when they were venting or they really wanted to unpack something. If you change the subject, that's going to be discouraging for them to want to share with you more. So make sure that you're staying on topic, staying on what they want to talk about, and focusing on that as well. The next strategy is not letting your mind wander. Sometimes when somebody's talking, you might be thinking about, what am I going to eat for lunch? Oh, what is my other friend doing? Oh, what am I going to watch on TV tonight, right? It is really easy to sometimes let your mind wander and think about sometimes other things, or maybe something that that person says sparks another thought for you and you start going into la la land in your mind. If you're somebody that daydreams a lot or lets your mind wander a lot, active listening is about trying to prevent that while someone is speaking, and making sure that even in your mind, while you're having that good body language, focusing on them, your mind is also not wandering and your mind is really thinking about processing and reflecting on what that person is saying. Sometimes it's helpful for me to take notes while I'm talking to somebody. I would definitely say this to them while you're having the conversation. Say you're talking with somebody who you supervise, or you're talking with another exec member on your team. If you need to get out some notes, just say, do you mind if I take notes just so I remember everything that we touched on? And usually they'll say yes, and then you can take notes so that you can focus even more on what they're saying because you're taking notes, but then also you can go back and look at what they said and look at what you talked about too. So that's just a good tip to, again, help you stay focused and help your mind stay on the conversation if you're somebody that sometimes daydreams like me. Awesome. So now that we've shared a few strategies, we've talked through the core facts about active listening, I want you to again pause this video for a little bit and maybe write down or think for a few minutes about what components of active listening you might need to grow in. So maybe you're somebody that when you're listening to someone, you tend to be on your phone, you tend to be thinking about other things. Maybe you interrupt people sometimes when they're talking. Maybe you realize that you don't ask questions when somebody's talking to you or when you're in a conversation. Think about some of those strategies and components that we talked about. Maybe go back in the video if you want to look back at what we were just talking about and pick one to maybe 3 or 4 things that you want to improve on that maybe you haven't been doing or you haven't been thinking about lately in your conversations with folks, and write them down. Say, okay, I really want to focus on resisting the urge to jump in when others are speaking, or I really want to focus on not being on my phone or silencing my notifications when I'm in a conversation with someone. And set that goal for yourself of what you want to grow in with your active listening. Awesome. So now we're going to shift to having active listening in a student organization. And this can also be any group. It does not need to be a student organization. But if you're watching this as a student organization leader and you're leading meetings and you're meeting with your groups in your organization, we want you to have some tangible skills so that everybody in your group can not only practice active listening, but also feel like they're being heard, right? Because as Tierza mentioned, when members feel that they're heard and that they're being listened to, they're much more likely to be engaged in the group. So here's some tips about how you might be able to do active listening in your organizations. So number one is starting meetings with a short check-in question. Depending on how your group is or how big your group is, you may be able to have a larger discussion around a question. It might be a quick question of, what's your favorite season and why? Maybe a 1 to 2 sentence answer. Or it can be a discussion question. Tell us about a time where you were really nervous about performance and what came of that, right? So having a check-in question where every person in the group or every person at the meeting can tell a quick story can be great for people to feel like they're being heard, right? Because if they're given that space and opportunity to share, it's a great start. The other thing with that is if they are sharing and you're at the front of the room facilitating that question, make sure everyone's listening. So if you see folks on their phone, if there's some side conversations while everyone else is sharing, it's okay to say, hey, let's make sure that so and so is being heard right now. And just give them that reminder that all of the focus should be on the person speaking while we're answering these questions. So not only having that check-in questions, having that space, but also saying, hey, we're going to actively listen and practice active listening as a group and making sure we're hearing each person that gets to share. The other thing that you can do as a student organization leader is have an observer during meetings. So this person is in tune, maybe they're taking notes, maybe it's somebody who also takes the meeting notes. They try to notice patterns, maybe if somebody is interrupted several times during a meeting, if one person is sharing the most, maybe only one person talks during the meeting, maybe one person looks like they want to share, but they don't get the time, or there's so many other people talking that they didn't get that chance. Um, that observer can say, hey, I see Sheila over there. She looks like she has something. Did you have something to say, Sheila? And give them that space, right? So having that as a designated role at every meeting can be really helpful. And it doesn't have to be you. Maybe if you're watching this as the president or as the person who typically leads the meetings, you could delegate that to somebody else and say, hey, I really want to make sure that everybody's being heard, that the airways are being shared and everybody's getting a chance to speak. Can you observe each meeting and make sure that that's happening? Right? Or you can rotate that role each week. And that might also help your group to become a little bit more self-aware of, okay, we're rotating this every single week. I'm noticing things. I'm noticing what the observer is seeing too. Like everybody might become the observer at that point and start to police themselves. So that's a great strategy. I really like just pausing and reflecting. So sometimes when we get into meetings, it's easy to just want to like go through the agenda quickly. Maybe you have a lot to cover and you don't take a second to ask the group questions or just take a step back and say, hey, any other thoughts on this? Or what, what did reflect on what we just talked about? Those moments are a great way to get more people in the group to share and to help people do active listening, because they're not just going into a meeting to sit and listen to someone talk at them. They're in a meeting to hear information, reflect on that information, and then possibly respond back to questions. And that can help with everybody in the group actively listening. I always love team builders, communication games, listening games. There's a lot of options. The Center for Leadership actually has team builders and communication games that we can bring to your group. So definitely check out the description of this video to find out ways that you can bring our leadership ambassadors into your groups, and we can help you all with some of those active listening and communication things through fun games and fun activities. Feedback circles, rose, bud, thorn. So rose is positive, bud is a possibility, and thorn is something that you might want to change after events and programs. So maybe you just had an event as a group. Instead of standing at the front of the room and just saying great job to the whole group, get feedback. Have people share, have people think and reflect on the events that you all do. And then I think this one is really important, setting group norms early on. So maybe at the first meeting, or maybe when you start to get all of your new members in, or maybe you're sitting down as an exec team for the first time, always set expectations. And I think a lot of those expectations should be surrounded around active listening, right? So listening to understand, avoid interruptions, respect, all of those things are expectations that you can set at the beginning, right off the bat. Have each member or each exec member say, yes, I can sign on and I can say that I will commit to these expectations. Then down the line, if maybe some people are forgetting the expectations or not following them, you can refer back to, hey, at the beginning of the year, this is an expectation that we set. I want to make sure we're staying within that. So these are all some great strategies that you can use specifically as a student organization leader. Or again, maybe this is some of these you use with a class project group or something like that as well. It could be any group of people that you do these with.
Okay, so sometimes we've been really focusing on your entire group or a team that you're part of being in conversation about something, and you as the leader practicing being an active listener. Sometimes a member or a teammate or even just a friend may approach you and you practice your active listening skills one-on-one. And sometimes you may hear something that's a little bit over your head and your gut knows, I need somebody else to help me. I want you to really look at this image on the screen. You are the pink person in the middle. Surrounding you are tons of faculty and staff members on this campus. Staff members in the student involvement office. We've got folks in the counseling center. We have a care team, a group of staff that their full-time job is to reach out to students when they're struggling with something. So if you hear something that you're like, oh, I think this is above my head, or this person is in crisis of some sort, it could be academic crisis, it could be personal crisis, et cetera. Your role is to make a referral. And there's two ways to do it. One is to do it directly with that person. So let's say that Olivia has come to share with me that she's struggling with something, or she's got a problem, or she's having, a struggle with something. And I want to connect her with a faculty or staff member, maybe an academic advisor, maybe a counselor. And I want to make sure that I say that. If it feels comfortable to say, hey, Olivia, this is like a real problem. And I thank you for sharing with me as I think about how I can support you as your friend or the leader of this group, or as your, project teammate, if this is like a semester project group. I really think that you should talk to our faculty member, or you should talk to somebody over in the tutoring center, or that, we should go talk to the advisor for our student organization. I think they'd be better positioned to help you. Um, I would really recommend that. Are you open to going? Let's say it's something with your club. Like, I think you should really go talk to our advisor or somebody in the student involvement office. Like, would you be willing to do that? Olivia then would have to decide yes or no, she felt comfortable. But if she said, yeah, I think you're right, I should probably just go talk to, Alexis in the student involvement office. Here's the thing though, I've now made a referral. Olivia's accepted. Yeah, there's another person who can be a really great resource person. I need to follow up a couple days later and go, hey, did you get a chance to talk to Alexis? How did it go? That's part of showing that you were active listening. You realize that it was a big issue and you want to come back around and say, I care enough about you that I want to follow up and see how it went. Because as the person they trusted you with the original problem, if they couldn't get access, let's say, to that person, or that person didn't give them the assistance that they thought they would get, you then are still a partner with them to figure out what to do next. So then going to our next slide, sometimes you realize I've helped this person the best I can, but I really need to report to somebody else at the university that somebody needs to know about this as an FYI. And as I shared, there are full-time people that they're here just to help you be successful at this institution. So it could be that you send an email to an academic advisor. It could be to a faculty or a staff member attached to whatever the concern is. Sometimes it's to the care team. If you go on our Dean of Students website, you will find that there's a report a concern. There's a form that you can fill out on our website. That then gets routed to somebody, and on weekday mornings, they look at those and they go, oh, we'll reach out to this student and see if we can offer resources. Um, could be a student life staff member. So it could be that you know someone like Olivia and I, and you're like, I think that person could really help. I'm just gonna send them an email and say, hey, I'm worried about this. This is how I handled it as a student leader. I tried to practice my good active listening skills, but is there anything else I could have done, or could you follow up with this student? Sometimes it might be a department head if there's an issue with somebody that you interacted with, and maybe you need to say something to the person that supervises them or they report to you. Sometimes things need to go to university police. And so you can also report things to university police online. You can also make that phone call. It could be the counseling center. And then sometimes there are issues that you might learn about that are violations of policy, or might be really harmful to somebody. And so you can go again on that website for the Dean of Students office, and you can find report a concern. And that then would be routed to folks that would follow up. And so we want you to know that active listening skills, most of the time, this isn't what's going to happen, but sometimes it does. And we want you to know, A, it's appropriate to refer somebody to someone else, and it's also very appropriate for you to inform somebody, hey, I had this conversation with my friend or with my teammate or with my club member, and I think somebody should check on this student. Okay, so we want you to do some wrap-up reflection as we end the end of this workshop. So again, we'd love for you to pause the video and think about these questions. So, when you think of the tools and the tips that we've given you, and of course you can rewind the video to look at those again, maybe pick one that you're like, I'm going to try to incorporate that into my active listening skills. If I realize I'm not being a good active listener, what's one thing I could change, right? When I'm thinking specifically about a student organization that I'm part of, if you're a leader or a member, have I truly felt like I've been listened to in that organization? And how might I contribute to better listening? How does active listening impact group dynamics? So if you are a leader of this group, and you're thinking and reflecting on, yeah, I think my group's like a 5 out of 10 on active listening. What actions can I take to improve group dynamics? Could I do one of the strategies, such as the one that Olivia mentioned about have an opening question and everybody gets to speak and everybody gets to be heard? I love the observer piece. I've absolutely been in student organizations where that rotated. There was a different person every week. The byproduct of that is even if it's just 1 out of the 14 weeks of the semester that you're the observer, you're going to pay attention to that and active listening. All the other weeks you're not, once you've done that role. And then what are the barriers in my group that exist to active listening? And is there something I can do to address it? It might be you as the leader alone could do to address it, or it might be you bring it up with your executive board and say, hey, folks, the last 3 meetings, I've noticed the following. What do you think we could do so people feel more heard? And you might come up, we're going to do an intro survey. Maybe it's anonymous. Maybe we use a word cloud up on the screen in the classroom where we're meeting. What's something you want to work on this week? Like just asking for people's opinions, and responding appropriately to people's ideas and suggestions. So figure out what are the barriers and then what are the strategies.
Well, that is all our information about active listening. But if you have questions or you are looking for more resources, looking to learn more about leadership, want to know even more skills besides active listening, the Center for Leadership is here for you. So, our full time jobs are to help students develop as leaders, and we have several resources for any and all Elon students. So, if you're watching this as a student organization leader, I mentioned it a little bit earlier in the video, but we have student ambassadors that can come visit your student organization meetings, do team builders, help your organizations with communication. We also do leadership workshops for groups in person. So if you'd like someone from our office to come, again, teach some skills and help you or your team to learn more about leadership, we are happy to do that. You can find us. We're located in the Mosley Center at the top of the stairs, right across from the mailroom. So we're in Mosley 230. So come see us, come say hi. You're welcome to pop into our office during office hours. You're also welcome to email us or visit our website. That's where we have all of our programs and offerings. I also recommend that you follow us on Instagram. We have a lot of great events and things open again to any Elon student. So follow us there to stay up to date with that. We also have a Phoenix Leaders program. So if you have first year students in your organizations, or you are watching this as a first year student, or you're a student who is not involved yet or is looking to gain more leadership skills, the Phoenix Leaders program is perfect for anyone who's looking to get more involved and looking to possibly have a leadership position in a student organization or somewhere else on campus later on. The Phoenix Leaders program helps prepare students for that. So maybe if you're watching this as an org leader and you have members in your organization that you think might want to step up into your positions, definitely recommend the Phoenix Leaders program to them, because that's a great option for, again, developing leaders who maybe don't have that experience yet. We also house the Leadership ELR, so definitely check that out if you're looking to get another ELR through doing leadership. We also do leadership coaching. So if you are struggling with some leadership issue, maybe a conflict or a goal that you're struggling to reach with your org, come to our office and we can help you set goals. We can help you troubleshoot. Overall, we're here for you as an office. So definitely utilize us as a resource for your leadership. Well, that's all we had in this video, but thank you so much for watching, and we hope you have a great day.